Lyra Ashwood stood at the edge of the great hall, her hands folded tightly in front of her, and tried to remember how to breathe. The room was full of candlelight and soft music, and every wolf in the Blackthorn pack had gathered to witness the mating ceremony she had dreamed of since she was a child. Tonight, she was supposed to become Luna. Tonight, she was supposed to stand beside Kaelin Blackthorn, the Alpha King, and finally claim the bond that fate had given them both. Instead, she was standing alone, watching him take another woman's hand. "I choose Selene Voss," Kaelin said, his voice steady and cold, as if the words cost him nothing. "For the good of this pack, and the future of our alliance." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Lyra felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. The mate bond inside her chest, the invisible thread that had connected her to Kaelin since the day she turned 18, pulled so hard it felt like her ribs might crack. She wanted to scream, she wanted to run, but 300 wolves were watching her, and she would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her fall apart. Selene stepped forward in a gown the color of fresh blood, her lips curled into a smile that did not reach her eyes. She looked at Lyra the way a hunter looks at a wounded deer. "Thank you for understanding," Selene said sweetly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I know it must be hard, losing something you never truly had." Lyra said nothing. She turned and walked out of the hall, her spine straight, her chin high, even as her heart cracked into pieces with every step. That night, alone in the small room she had been given at the edge of the pack house, Lyra allowed herself to cry. She cried until her throat was raw, and her eyes burned, and then she wiped her face, took a long breath, and made herself a promise. She would not beg. She would not chase a man who had chosen someone else in front of the entire pack. Whatever came next, she would face it with her head held high. She did not know that whatever came next would be far crueler than she imagined. The next morning, she was summoned to the Alpha's study. She expected Kaelin. Instead, she found Selene sitting in his chair, her fingers drumming against the polished wood. "I have decided," Selene said, without looking up, "that you will serve me personally. You will dress me, arrange my schedule, and attend to anything I need. Think of it as a gift. Most rejected mates are cast out of the pack entirely. I am allowing you to stay." Lyra's stomach turned. "Does Kaelin know about this?" "Kaelin agreed to it," Selene said, finally lifting her eyes. They were sharp and glittering, like broken glass. "He understands that I need someone loyal, close to me, especially now, while our alliance is still new, and who better than the woman who understands this pack better than anyone?" Lyra understood, even if Selene did not say it directly. This was not about loyalty. This was punishment. Selene wanted to see her every day, wanted to remind her, again and again, of what she had lost. Lyra bowed her head, because there was nothing else to do, and said, "As you wish." The weeks that followed were the hardest of Lyra's life. She rose before dawn to prepare Selene's clothes and meals. She stood silently in the corner of every pack meeting, refilling water glasses and carrying messages, while Selene sat beside Kaelin at the head of the table, playing the perfect future Luna. She watched Kaelin's eyes flick toward her sometimes, quick and guilty, before he looked away again. She told herself it did not matter. She told herself she was over him. She was lying to herself, and she knew it. Selene's cruelty was quiet, but constant. She would order Lyra to redo simple tasks for no reason, just to watch her work longer. She would make comments in front of others, always polite on the surface, always sharp underneath. Lyra used to think she would be Luna, she said once at a pack dinner, laughing softly. "Isn't that funny? Some wolves simply are not meant for greatness." The other pack members laughed politely, not because they believed it, but because no one dared question the future Luna. Lyra kept her face calm and her hands steady, pouring wine into Selene's glass without spilling a drop, even as something inside her hardened like stone. But Lyra was not only enduring, she was watching. She noticed things a servant is not supposed to notice. She saw Selene meeting late at night with a wolf from the Red Fang pack, an enemy pack that had clashed with Blackthorn for generations. She saw letters sealed with a stamp that did not belong to any pack she recognized, letters Selene burned quickly in the fireplace the moment she thought she was alone. She saw the way Selene's smile changed when she thought no one was looking, turning from sweet to something colder, something calculating. Lyra began to keep a small notebook hidden beneath a loose floorboard in her room. She wrote down dates, times, names, anything unusual. She told herself it was foolish, that no one would believe a rejected mate over the woman Kaylin had chosen. But something told her this was important. Something told her Celine Voss was not who she pretended to be. One evening, as autumn turned the forest gold and cold, Lyra was sent to deliver a message to the Alpha's study. She knocked, but no one answered, so she pushed the door open gently, expecting the room to be empty. Instead, she found Kaylin standing by the window, staring out at the darkening trees, his shoulders heavy with something that looked like grief. "I did not mean for it to be like this," he said quietly, without turning around. He must have heard her enter. Lyra froze in the doorway. "Alpha, I only came to deliver." "Kaylin," he said. "Please, just Kaylin, at least when it's only us." She swallowed hard. "It doesn't matter what you meant. You chose her, in front of everyone." He finally turned to face her, and for the first time in months, she saw something raw in his eyes, something that looked almost like pain. "The Council believed the alliance with Celine's pack would protect us from Red Fang aggression. I believed it too at first. But every day, it feels more wrong. Every day, I feel the bond I broke, and it feels like losing a piece of myself." "Then why not end it?" Lyra asked, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay strong. "Because if I break the engagement now, without proof of wrongdoing, I risk war with her pack," Kaylin said. "I need evidence. I need something more than a feeling that something is wrong." Lyra hesitated. Then, almost without deciding to, she said, "I think I have some." She told him everything: the secret meetings, the strange letters, the way Celine's mask sometimes slipped. Kaylin listened in silence, his jaw tightening with every word. When she finished, he looked at her with something between gratitude and shame. "Why would you help me?" he asked softly. "After everything I did to you." Lyra lifted her chin. "Not for you," she said. "For this pack. For the wolves who trust you to protect them. I may be nothing to you anymore, but I still belong to Blackthorn." Something shifted in his expression then, something that looked almost like heartbreak, though she could not let herself hope it meant anything. Over the following weeks, Lyra continued gathering evidence, more carefully now, knowing that Kaylin was watching too. Together, without ever speaking of it openly in front of others, they built a case. Lyra passed information through trusted servants. Kaylin quietly reached out to old allies who confirmed that Red Fang had indeed been in contact with someone inside Blackthorn territory. Piece by piece, the truth took shape. Celine, meanwhile, grew more confident, believing her plan was working perfectly. The wedding date approached, and pack members began preparing for the ceremony that would make her Luna. Lyra served her every day, smiling politely, pouring tea, and saying nothing of what she knew, though the effort of staying silent nearly broke her more than once. Then came the night of the Alpha Summit, when leaders from every allied pack gathered at Blackthorn territory to finalize the union between the two packs. Celine stood proudly at Kaylin's side, dressed in white and gold, playing the role of devoted mate for all to see. Kaylin rose to speak, his voice carrying across the hall. "Before we finalize this alliance," he said, "there is something the Council and our allies must know." Celine's smile flickered, just slightly. Kaylin nodded, and Lyra stepped forward from the shadows, where she had been standing, carrying the notebook she had hidden for months. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not, as she read the dates, the names, the evidence of secret meetings between Celine and Red Fang wolves, evidence of letters planning to weaken Blackthorn from within, once the marriage was complete. Whispers spread through the hall like fire through dry grass. Celine's face went pale, her calm mask cracking for the first time in public. "This is a lie," she said sharply. "This servant is jealous. She would say anything to destroy what I have built." But Kaylin stepped forward, and when he spoke, his voice was not the voice of a heartbroken man anymore. It was the voice of an Alpha King. "I had my own people confirm every detail," he said. "Red Fang elders have already admitted to the arrangement, hoping for leniency. You did not come here to build an alliance, Celine. You came here to destroy this pack from the inside." The hall fell silent. Celine looked around at the faces staring back at her, allies who no longer looked like allies, and for the first time, fear replaced her confidence. Celine Voss, his voice ringing through the hall, you are banished from Blackthorn territory, effective immediately. Any future contact with this pack will be treated as an act of war. Guards moved forward to escort her out. Celine shot one last furious look at Lyra before she was led away, her schemes finally unraveling in front of everyone she had tried to deceive. The hall buzzed with stunned murmurs as the doors closed behind her. Kalen stood at the front of the room for a long moment, silent, before he turned and looked directly at Lyra. For months, he said, his voice softer now, but strong enough for the whole hall to hear. I believed I made the right choice by pushing aside my true bond for the sake of political safety. I was wrong. I let fear guide me instead of truth. And the one person who never stopped protecting this pack, even after I hurt her deeply, was the woman I had already rejected. He crossed the room and stood before her, and for the first time since the night of the failed ceremony, he did not look like an alpha king. He looked like a man who was afraid of losing something precious a second time. Lyra Ashwood, he said, I cannot undo what I did. I cannot erase the pain I caused you. But if you will allow me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that my choice today, and every day after, will always be you. The hall was silent, waiting. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, feeling the mate bond pulse gently between them, patient and unbroken despite everything it had endured. She thought of the humiliation, the long nights of quiet suffering, the strength it had taken to hold her head high while serving the woman who had stolen her place. She thought of survival. And she thought of choice. You hurt me, she said quietly, her voice carrying through the still hall. And I will not pretend that pain disappears in one moment. But I also know what it means to fight for something worth saving. If you are willing to earn back what you broke, then I am willing to let you try. A murmur of relief and quiet joy spread through the crowd. Kalen reached for her hand, and this time, he did not let go. In the months that followed, Kalen worked every day to rebuild the trust he had shattered, and slowly, carefully, Lyra allowed herself to believe in him again. When the next mating ceremony was held beneath the autumn moon, there was no hesitation in his voice, no political calculation in his choice. He took her hand in front of the entire pack, and this time, he chose her completely, without doubt, without fear. Lyra Ashwood, once forced to serve the woman who stole her mate, became Luna of Blackthorn Pack, not because fate demanded it, but because the Alpha King finally chose her with his whole heart, and as the pack howled in celebration beneath the silver moonlight, Lyra finally let herself believe that some bonds, even broken ones, could be mended into something stronger than before.